Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Report, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Let's take a look at some stocks on the move today in Europe. I'm Stephen Carroll and I'm joined by Bloomberg's breaking news editor, Louise Moon. Louise, good morning. Let's start then with one of the shares that is gaining in Europe this morning. There's a few of them to pick from. BNP Paribas up by 5%. What's going on?
Yes, so they issued a new share buyback this morning, which is one of the key focuses. So that's 1.15 billion euros of a share buyback. They also said they plan to lift their CET1 ratios. Obviously, that's a key measure of banks' capital strength. So they're going to raise that to 13% by 2027. That's a year earlier than they had planned before. So a double kind of whammy of positive news for them. And as you say, shares are rising on that. Essentially, it's kind of reassuring investors. They've had a series of setbacks. So this is quite positive and welcome news. In their third quarter, for example, they had quite a hit from bad debt. There's also been a court ruling in the US recently, and there was worries over that could be quite an expensive settlement. So the news this morning is helping with a bit of reassurance. Analysts are saying, that they're addressing market concerns, but of course the focus now moving forward is delivery, and particularly delivery on capital distribution is what analysts are saying. But as I say, a bit of good news boosting shares today.
Okay, so from a big European bank to a company that makes teeny tiny little figurines, Games Workshop in the UK seeing its shares soaring. I'm so happy we're doing this story, Louise. What's going on with Games Workshop?
It is a fascinating story. So yeah, as you say, so they're one of the biggest boosters of the FTSE 100 this morning. They had a first half trading update. Jefferies called it outstanding. They called it an asset of rare quality. So a glowing report from Jefferies. Their revenue came in ahead of expectations, and essentially it was a positive update. Peel Hunt upgraded it to a buy on the back of that, saying that they're set for another good year, particularly referencing their dividend, saying that reinforces strength of cash flow. But yeah, as we kind of touched upon, it's a really interesting story. So it listed a long time ago, Games Workshop, but it's really rallied in recent years, and it joined the FTSE 100 about a year ago. It's carved out a real niche, and it's just executed that very well, partly capitalising on the back of some TV shows, but also, analysts note that it's got very good quality. They keep a close eye on costs. There was one note saying that, the business seems really focused on the business rather than talking more to investors and that kind of thing. So it's been a real rally story of the past few years, and this update this morning is reinforcing that.
Yeah, and look, it's such an interesting story because it is such a community around Warhammer, and the shops are always a sort of place which, when I used to go into them as a teenager, they really do care about the people who walk in the door. It's actually quite a lot of parallels to the story we've been talking about in the luxury sector today, and that effort of building part of the family sentiment around a brand. So their shares up significantly in London today. Let's stay in the UK, and JD Sports having a tricky time. Their shares down 2.6% at the moment.
Indeed, yeah, but a bit of a different story. So they are one of the key drags for FTSE 100 this morning. They've warned that their annual pre-tax profit will be at the lower end of expectations. They're coming in quite low. They're saying the UK remains weak. North America has improved slightly, but that's kind of mostly down to comparatives. So they're really talking of a weak consumer. They're talking weak consumer indicators in the UK, and as well as that, wider macro conditions that are basically dragging on their near-term prospects. And this comes, the timing is very interesting. It comes as the British Retail Consortium, they also had some figures overnight saying that consumer confidence tumbled in November. So it's painting this picture of Brits not wanting to spend, pulling back on personal spending ahead of the budget coming, and obviously expectations of tax hikes there. There was one analyst on JD Sports that was saying that there are a lot of worries, but it's nothing that a dose of economic confidence and a few strong product releases wouldn't resolve. So it's banking on a bit of that confidence returning.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.